Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Enigma Exchange podcast. My name is Matthew. I am the host for the podcast. I am 23. I'm currently working for a quick lube location. I would say I have a lot of interest in life. I'm a very big conspiracy theorist. I like to play board games, card games, phone games, naturally games on PS4. If I can, I'll play PS5 on friend system and stuff like that. General overview for the podcast before we kind of start to get into things. It is a podcast about just kind of everything. There's not going to be a single topic that's discussed over and over and over again. Just kind of a general overview of everything that's going on. Life events, stories, paranormal experiences, conspiracies, science, stuff like that. Really just kind of off the wall stuff. If that's the type of stuff that you enjoy listening to, then be prepared for a pretty good show. Just to kind of give a good overview about myself, I would say I lived out a pretty normal childhood. I hit my head a lot as a kid, got into a lot of trouble, got into a lot of legal trouble as a kid. Of course, did your choice drugs, smoked a little bit of weed here and there. I went to school inside of the Parma City School District, so I went to Normandy High School, Hillside Middle School, and of course Densler Elementary School. I had some of my best memories back in elementary school. I think everyone has their best memories when they're children, right? Having fun, not having to pay any bills, not having to worry about what society is doing around you. Currently, I just find myself working a lot, play games in my spare time. I like to kind of build like little model cars and whatnot. I like to research stuff online. I'm very big into crypto, NFTs, stocks, all that general stuff. I actually almost accidentally flagged my own account as a day trader because, you can't have more than 5 of the same stock trade within a 5 business period day without 25 grand in your account. Well, I'm definitely not that rich. And I was trading some stocks back and forth. Well, my investing app let me know ahead of time, twice now actually, that I was very close to being flagged as a day trader, so I think I might need to wait at least a week before I hop back on the stock market, wait till my next paycheck hit. Currently, one of my top games to play on the PS4 is Apex. I recently just got my master's badge. I had all my buddies help carry me through. It was a long and terrible struggle. I was hard stuck in the rank right before I'm not sure if you'd be familiar with the game, but I'm gonna reference it like everyone is familiar because it is a pretty popular game. I was in Diamond 2, and inside this season there is a bunch of different strategies, but the main strategy everyone's been going with is ratting. So it's basically where you just hide in a corner during the whole game and you come out in the final 10 once you already get placement, or once you feel comfortable to come out. Well, in the final games before I hit master, I think I had like 50 to 60 points left. I was just hiding in corners, shooting at people as I would, but not really going out too much. Couple close moments, but I finally got up there. And I kind of actually feel proud about it, oddly enough. It may be considered one of the easiest things to do right about now considering what they did for the season, but I'm still proud of it, and everyone that hit masters I think should be. I like to explore a lot, so I like to get out the house. I like to go hiking. I like to adventure. I like to go to abandoned buildings. If I end up passing by an abandoned building, I tend to put a lot of research behind it and see if there's any easy ways to get into it. I've been into a little bit of trouble, nothing serious, exploring down in Cleveland. Obviously everyone explores down there, but there was one time where I got stopped with a group of friends by Cleveland police, and we basically just got a warning. We were kind of checking out all the cop cars and all the retired fire trucks next to one of the warehouse abandoned buildings. I think it was close to East 55th, and the cops are like, "Hey, you guys basically can't be here." And we were like, "Oh, well, there's no signs posted," the whole stupid act, and they basically told us anything that's fenced in is inaccessible, so we took that as, hey, if it's not fenced in, we can go explore it. So we continued to explore places as long as there was no fence around them. Obviously, it's still against the law, and I would not recommend it. But if you want to have a little bit of fun with the cops, go for it. I've been known to be a pretty sporadic person, so I can assure you that not everything inside any of the podcast episodes is going to be, a one-track mind, but eventually we'll gather everything and wrap up back to the basic point at the end of the podcast, or at least we'll attempt to in the best way possible for everyone. I don't exactly have any experience behind any of this. I don't edit. I don't do podcasts too often. I definitely don't talk behind a microphone all day. So this is probably going to be a very rough first attempt, but I will get better as I go along. And hopefully, you guys will stick around to see that as it comes. I plan to bring plenty of guests on the show. A lot of friends and family to start off with, but in the future, I'll try to bring on bigger guests and bigger names, bigger people, more popular people. A recent phone game that's had me kind of hooked is Battle Cats. Definitely know not everyone's familiar with that game, but basically it's a 2D game. You have one base and a bunch of units that you kind of send for a cost, and you face a bunch of enemies. There's a bunch of mobile games out there like it, but this one's my favorite because you get little cat characters, you can upgrade them, they evolve into some stuff. There's some pretty wacky ones, and all the enemies have nice little descriptions. You have like little files that you can check and different missions that you can complete. Obviously there's daily rewards, and you basically like spin a roulette wheel for different characters and whatnot. Once you get said rewards from the daily drops, it's pretty nice, and they have a bunch of cool events. The game stays up to date. The creators definitely had something pretty good when they were making it. If you don't know what Battle Cats is, I would definitely go check it out in your spare time. Again, not even a sponsorship, just if you want a really interesting game to kind of envelop your time for a while, and if you're into kind of strategy battle games where you send units back and forth, I think that would be a perfect game for you to check out. I've played a lot of mobile phone games throughout the years. Well, some of my favorite ones actually aren't even on the App Store anymore. I used to play this game called Pocket Nights a while back, and that was a really, really cool game. It had a lot of cool designs, a lot of cool concepts behind it. Kind of like your now current, you build something, you collect multiple cards, and you merge them to get different stars and evolutions, but a little bit more basic and a lot more thought out, in my opinion. I can't really explain it all too well. I'm not very good with the descriptive words just yet. Going back to touch base on a little bit of who I am, I would say I have a good sense of style. I don't really like to, worry about what I put on too much in the morning. I put on mismatched socks without caring, and I don't really care about color, but I like to at least care about my appearance a little bit. I feel like everyone does, I like to at least make sure my hair's not looking terrible, or if I have like dirt or something on my face, I like to wipe that off. I do work for a quick lube place, so whenever I'm at work, it's not exactly the easiest thing to stay clean, and we have this wonderful soap that I've always wanted to try and get at home. I think it's called Orange Magic. I'm not 100%, don't quote me on that, but it's kind of like that beaded soap, like very exfoliating. You pump like 1 or 2 pumps, you wipe it on your hands, get a little bit of water on there, you basically scrub it in, and it works kind of like magic. It's actually really, really cool how this stuff works, because your hands could be black from diesel oil, and it's going to come out looking brand new, like you were just born again. I've also dealt with some stuff a while back that was I think it was just called mechanics like grease, and it's this orange liquid stuff, no water needed. You just rub it on your hands where all the oil is. You wipe it off with a towel, and everything just kind of comes off. I actually don't know how it works, but it's some really cool stuff. And if you ever considering something for an at-home, in garage, or just general purpose cleaner for your hands and for parts of your body, I would highly recommend it, because it gets just about everything off of you. If it can get oil off your skin, it can get just about anything. I would like to say that I'm pretty into cars. I do currently have two cars. One of them is kind of like a ticking time bomb, and the other one's pretty alright. It's a 2011 Dodge Charger and I think it's an '06 Chevy Trailblazer. I actually love the Trailblazer. I never really drove an SUV before I got it, but ever since I've gotten it, I've actually kind of come in the tune with adjusting to the size of it, and now whenever I do drive my Charger, it feels very indifferent, very alien. Um, it's a lot lower. Everything's kind of boxier. The Trailblazer, I have a lot of space. I have a lot of back seat room. I have a lot of area to judge for. It's super super different. I feel like if you swap cars day to day, and if you drive like daily out to work and you swap in between two different or maybe even 3 to 4 different vehicles, you have some really serious unnatural skill as a driver, because it's hard to kind of call and adjust for different sizes like that on a day-to-day basis, especially when you're not used to it. I know some people, they go out and they buy these big trucks. They don't know how to judge them, and they don't know how to, call for how wide they are whenever they're taking turns. They're always checking out curbs and smacking people, pulling in the parking lots. Just, buy a car that's decent size for you, or something that you'll be able to control. Some people they can't drive bigger vehicles, and that goes to show every single day, For my cars, I like to do a lot of the work myself. I wouldn't exactly say I'm a mechanic, but I know how to do a little bit of stuff here and there. I do oil changes for a living, so that definitely kind of helps knock out the basics, I know how to do a little bit of suspension, all the plug and play stuff. It's all pretty easy. All the internal engine, and then once you get the transmission and sensors and wiring, you kind of lose me a little bit. Speaking of cars and the touchback a little bit on the gaming, I've actually been really big in the Gran Turismo as well. I pre-ordered it when it first came out, just to reference the brand new one, Gran Turismo 7. I pre-ordered it when it first came out. It was like $120, ridiculous price for a game. Absolutely love it though. I basically beat it, but I'm trying to gold all of the training missions in it, and there's one mission in the very end where you drive this crazy fast car with no traction control and like no stability help, and it's on this rainy track, and the goal is to hit it in like 2 minutes and some odd seconds. It is almost impossible. I've come super close a couple times, but it's just unreal. I want to get a full-on racing sim so I can like actually get the feel of driving the cars kind of like how you drive them in person, because Gran Turismo is said to be a super realistic racing sim, and if you have an actual racing sim set up like a driving wheel and the gearbox and the pedals, it's supposed to be pretty responsive, and it's supposed to feel like you're driving like a real car. One of the coolest things about the game when it first came out was that, they were going to advertise that if you were a good enough driver, they would put you basically in NASCAR. And it actually became a real thing. They're soon making a movie about it. One of my buddies from work actually showed me it. And I think that's some of the coolest things ever. People always doubted all these gamers growing up about, oh, well, you're never going to get far in life. You're not going to do anything. But all these games are giving people incentives to play them. Like, oh, well, if you become good at a game, you can earn $500,000, or this flight out to Paris, or this flight out to London, or you can be put on this team where you live rent free inside this house. Everything's paid for. You can win cars. You can win a lot just from gaming. And like I was going off of earlier, the Gran Turismo game, you literally got to race in NASCAR if you were good enough. Like, you had to prove your skills on a racing simulator, and they put you on a track. You know how insane that is? But it worked out, and because of the way that Gran Turismo was built, and because of how the racing sim actually puts it up against actual cars, it turned out to be a pretty cool idea. And now that I've successfully rambled off about Gran Turismo for a little bit, let me go back to a little bit about myself. I do collect Hot Wheels. I think, in the future, maybe one day, they might get big, but I collect them kind of for personal gain. I just like the way that they look. I like, having little die-cast versions or little 3D models of some of my favorite cars. I have a R35 GTR sitting underneath my computer where everything is recording right now for, what do people call that, motivation or aspirations? Or is it manifestations? I also have a die-cast one that I built sitting in the middle of the table. I actually have a R32 sitting in front of me as well, but I haven't got around to building it just yet. So eventually I will build that, and I'll have that probably stacked on top of the other one or sitting right next to it just to kind of give the table a little bit of life. So far I've owned about 5 or 6 cars throughout my life, and I'm only 23. They say that the average amount of cars people have is about 3 to 4 throughout their lifetime. I think that is unbelievable and ridiculous. Cars are kind of inexpensive, and as long as you take care of them, you should kind of cycle through cars pretty well. Right now where I work, I do work with a bunch of my friends, and contrary to popular belief, it isn't that bad. Obviously there are a little bit of disagreements here and there, and there are certain levels that get stepped on because, you guys are buddies, and it kind of hurts a little bit, but eventually you guys get over it, the whole, oh, I hate you for an hour, and then eventually you guys end up just kind of getting over it and talking again like nothing ever happened. It's kind of like getting into arguments with like a family member, but on a whole nother level, because usually they're a lot closer. Speaking of family, I do like to stay close with my family. I'm not a very trusting person, so I don't like to get too close to people sometimes, but the people I do get close to, I typically have some really, really strong bonds with. No matter, if I don't talk to you for a while, no matter if I'm states away, really no matter what happens, I end up staying close to people. I like to have those kinds of connections, and you can't find many genuine connections out there nowadays, so if I end up finding one, then I like to keep it. I wouldn't exactly say I have the healthiest diet. I'm a pretty skinny person, but I eat all the time, and I just don't gain any weight. Sometimes there are times where I don't eat, but when I do, I think I overeat. I just don't gain anything, and I think it's pretty odd, but at the same time, I try not to think too much into it, because every time I talk to someone who's bigger than me about it, they say it's a blessing. So I like to just keep it at that. People don't get too many blessings coming around. I'll take mine as they come. I used to really, really like candy, but unfortunately, I messed my teeth up a lot when I was a kid. I was sadly one of those kids that didn't want to brush their teeth very often, and my mouth is pretty jacked up because of it. Eventually, I plan to get it fixed, and if I do end up becoming a video podcast, I feel sorry for you guys the first day that it happens, because other than not brushing my teeth, I also, messed up my face a lot as a kid. There was a couple times on bikes where I messed up and smacked my face into the ground, and I've hit my face with a sledgehammer, broke out a couple of my teeth. I've, passed out, smacked my head on the ground, dropped tools and thrown hammers up in the air and smacked them on my face. Don't ask me why. Very, very stupid things. As a kid, I think that's the perfect time to do the stupid things. When I was younger, and I did get into a little bit of legal trouble, my very, very first charge was arson. I caught it at about age, I think it was 12, 13, I might have been 14. I'm not 100% sure, it was a long time ago. I burnt down like a little slide thing that was next to me, or next to the street that I lived on, just about like 5-10 minute walk from my house. My dumb ass wanted to stand there and stare at it. I got arrested by pirate police. I sat inside the station for like 15-30 minutes. They fingerprinted me, asked me a bunch of questions, called my parents. I got released. I had to go into court and deal with that, and because I was the oldest at the time, I had to take a lot of responsibility for the 2 people that were with me. Didn't exactly go well for my favor. I ended up inside Quincy Detention Center and ended up on house arrest for a little bit, but all around, wasn't terrible. I just was a very stupid kid, and I had weird impulses, and everyone has those impulses as a kid that they can't control. You're like, the stove's hot. Let me see how hot though. Those weird thoughts. Because of my weird thoughts, I would like to say that I was always paying attention to what could possibly be going on around me, or why was there a pigeon on the wire and how did it not get electrocuted based off of science? That's the type of stuff you had to think about when you're young. You didn't have any worries. Like I said earlier, I am getting pretty big in the stocks right now. I'm putting a lot of research, obviously, in the Tesla. I think everyone is. There's a lot of stuff going in the Tesla. Two of the world's richest people put all their, eggs up in Tesla. All of it. Like, basically all their money into that one stock. Elon, and then I think was like the fourth richest man in the world recently. And I think that's pretty crazy, because you already know, like, when two of the richest people in the world do something, you don't think something big's about to happen with it. So obviously I put my money into it too. I do invest off of an app called SoFi. It kind of is mainly for, like, helping refinance student loans and help get out of debt, like debt recovery solutions, stuff like that. But I use it personally for banking and investing because it has some good interest rates and APY rates on your account, and it also has some good investing options. It's able to tell you a lot. It kind of generalizes your portfolio a little bit for you, helps you pick and choose what stocks to do, and kind of tells you your up-to-date stats accurately. I know some exchanges or brokers that you go through, they're all kind of a little bit out of date, and if you're 5 seconds out of date while you're looking for a big jump or like expecting to get $50 and you can lose it in a matter of seconds, those 5 seconds really do matter. So I like to stay with something that's a little bit more up to date and current with everything. They have constant updates, constantly adding more stocks. Obviously IPO investing is available through them. They have certain perks, rewards, and like partner perks if you want to become like a SoFi member and stuff like that. And going on investing, and what I said earlier about the NFTs. The NFTs I've mainly been investing into run off of the Avalanche network or the AVAX network. It's basically its own blockchain that has a bunch of different subnets. It all tries to use like a DeFi protocol, so it's not controlled by one sole person. Kind of the community controls it, and everyone has voting power as long as you hold its own type of currency or the currency that runs off the blockchain, which is, a little bit out of my grasp of everything. I'm still trying to look into that stuff and understand it more so I can explain it better, but that's the general understanding that I have of it so far. Anyway, I have been investing in the NFTs off of there to potentially get royalties in the future. So like there are certain small amounts of stuff that like advertise like, oh well, you put out $14 to $15 to buy this picture, you hold on to this picture until we get big, and when we get big we promise to divvy out 2% of our earnings into your account. That seems appetizing, and I do have a lot of patience. I'm very young, I have a lot of time to spare. All the extra change I get, I definitely probably shouldn't be spending it anywhere else, so yeah, I might as well put it into something that's going to benefit my future. So that's what I've been doing. I put a good amount of research behind most of the NFTs that I do, and most of them are like little casino games or little kind of side games that you can play online if you hold these NFTs. So that's what I do a little bit in my spare time. Generally, if I'm like, going through investing and using up my spare time to look into investing, I am directly inside of a bunch of brokers and I guess watch lists for the stock market, and I'm watching constant price updates. I recently went into gold and silver and what was it? Endeavor Silver. I think it was the Endeavor Silver Mining Corp. They recently, just a couple days ago, bumped up by 20 cents. If I was up and on the market 30 minutes earlier than I was, I could have gained like $150 just from that one jump. I could have bought, sold, dipped out of there, but I didn't. And, I lost an opportunity, so I like to try and stay up to date and make sure once it hits, 9:30 around when the stock market opens, I try to be on there because that's when the biggest price change usually happens, and it's usually in upwards for most of the stocks if you look into the right ones. Touching base a little bit on everything as a collective before, I tune myself out and stop rambling for all your guys' poor ears. Again, this will be a talk show about just kind of everything. I know in the beginning there's going to be a lot of rambling, and I do apologize. Not everything is going to be as coordinated as most people expect for a podcast, especially because I'm so new to it. But as I develop episodes and as I move along in the future, I'll get better, I'll keep improving, I'll keep putting out more episodes. And of course, if there's anything that I can do to possibly change up the show, if there's certain topics that you want me to cover during the show, you can always leave a review, comment, email me. You can always try and reach out to me in any shape, form, or way. I will try and get back to you as quickly as possible. I definitely don't have a big following right now, so if there's any small little tidbits that you would want me to adjust, just let me know. Or even if you have tips and you're a fellow podcaster that's tuning in, that would be greatly appreciated, just so I can kind of help build things. I'm not exactly making this podcast to blow up, just to be clear. I'm just kind of making it just so I have like a little talk show with my friends and family for right now. If it ends up blowing up and everyone likes what I have to say and people want to listen to what I have to talk about, that's even cooler. I'll try to keep it a little bit more consistent then. But until then, peace and love, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode and I guess the introduction of the Enigma Exchange podcast. Again, I'm your host, Matthew, and I will be officially tuning out.